Hey all, it's Holly here. Yeah, was hoping to make more of an introductory video before, anything like this, but I mean, yeah. There's obviously there's the recent election results in the US, which we're fortunately not directly affected, but obviously a lot of people are, and there's significant potential for indirect effects as well, that would cause problems for more people, people outside of where the election was held, right? So, that's, I think, an important thing to discuss to some level, as in terms of what next steps are for people, right? And I think, so, that's kind of the idea for today, is to try and discuss that to some degree. But this is unscripted and a little off the cuff, and we've had a couple of days. Probably could have prepared something, but I don't know if we'd have got the emotion across properly. That's, I think, somewhat needed for this. So this is obviously a pretty devastating result in many ways. It doesn't speak positively about the future and the potential for the future as much as, other results might have done. Of course, it is useful to recognise that there was very low turnout, right, and only, I'm going to say only, and it's not really an only, but, it is somewhat useful to look at it as an only, in some ways at least. Only a third of people did vote for the winner, right? Of course, that's a third of people who voted for, exactly. But it doesn't mean 2/3 of people didn't support enough to turn out and vote for him, and those ideas, which is something, right? It's obviously would have been nicer and better if, it hadn't won, but, it's also important to recognise that elections and electioneering, especially in a two-party state, in a two-party system where nobody who's standing as a party, member is truly on the left, you're never going to get any real leftward political shift. Just slow it slides to the right. So, elections are not the vehicle for change, at least not positive change. Elections are at best the vehicle for harm reduction, which has failed this time, admittedly, right, and that harm reduction is not going to be seen, at least to the same degree, but, the useful useful change has always come from, people organising, people working together, people, fighting the system effectively, in one way or another, and, the first thing you can do to fight the system, especially if you are, is to survive, right, is to live, especially if you're part of a marginalised community, it's simply living. Of course, withdrawing support from the state where you can, right, leaving, going somewhere else is of course a form of rebellion as well, and will help with the survival as well, right, so if you can do that, that might be worth doing, if you can pull out. But the thing you really need to do, or the other thing you can do that will help with survival and will help with any other fight back you want to do, is building community, local community who you can physically help and who can physically help you, right? People nearby who you can talk to face to face, right? Who you can discuss, organise plans, you can help each other mutually, mutual aid in the truest sense of the word, actually just helping each other in a way that helps that benefits everyone involved, right? And community defence systems and networks, right? Make sure that the people that can reasonably look out for, ICE, for example, know what they're looking out for, and who to tell and how when that comes along, right? Make sure that system of safety is there. Make sure people understand the police are not friends, right? If you have a problem with someone else in the community, the solution there is not the police, right? If someone's having a mental health crisis, the solution is not the police. It never was and it never will be, right? But you build this community support, Unionise. If you're working and there is a union you can join the union. If there is, and work with the union, make sure, work with the union to fight back against the worst of the changes, against change coming to your workplace that makes things worse for you, and support other unions and other unionisation efforts elsewhere whilst you're at it, and strike cooperatively between unions. The more places strike at once, the more effective the strike is, right? If one Starbucks in a city strikes and there's another 30, it doesn't affect Starbucks that much. If every single Starbucks in the city strikes, suddenly Starbucks have no Starbucks. Suddenly Starbucks are losing every single bit of business in that entire city for as long as that strike goes on, and that's enough to make them fall. And that's enough to at least, to push for change. And the same holds true in every industry, and across industries as well, right? And for other solidarity movements as well, right? It doesn't have to be your workplace directly that's getting affected for you to, strike in solidarity, right? We've seen this, we've seen dock workers, in the past, and even recently, where atrocious things have been happening abroad, either striking entirely or refusing to load ships, going to certain countries, South Africa in the past, and Israel today, we see that happen, and it works to some degree, it puts pressure on things, and the more you can do that, the more pressure you can provide, the more effective that becomes, right? The more collaborative, the larger the movement, the more pressure you can put on things, and the more change you can force. But step one is and always has been survival, right? And survival comes first, and it always has, and it always will. And survival is an act of rebellion. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Don't let anyone tell you survival is not enough. If survival is all you can do, survival is enough. If you can do more, I implore you to do more. But, if survival is all you can do, then anyone telling you need to do more doesn't understand and is not truly understood basic, the very basic concepts, if we go back to the ideas, and common enough refrain, it's not one as, from each what they're able and to each what they need. Like, if all you're able to do is survive, you should still be getting what you need. It's a simple enough idea, and it's, probably oversimplified, and it's realistically oversimplified, theorist stuff, but it does hold a grain of truth. Its simplicity is valuable as well, right? Although, there's certainly, nuanced conversations and the like that can be had around it, the simple truth of it does hold true, and that's important and useful to recognise. Yeah. I know. I think that's what I wanted to say today. Yeah. So, yeah. Basically, survive. First and foremost, survive. Secondly, yeah, and remember that survival is a form of retaliation and retribution and, rebellion. And that's valuable, and it's valuable. Secondly, organise in your local communities and organise at workplaces if you're working. And support unionisation wherever you can and support strikes, right? The worst thing you can do is cross the picket line. That's the worst thing you can do, is cross the picket line, is be a scab. So long as you're not doing that, and you're surviving, then anything more you can do to, surviving alone is valuable and worth it. And anything more you can do to progress that movement is absolutely valuable and absolutely well worth doing if you can do it. But do not get yourself killed for the sake of trying to do more, right? Don't do it. Don't get yourself killed. Don't. Yeah. I mean, yeah, martyrdom does not work. And yeah, martyrdom does not work. And remember, it is in numbers, it is in community, it is in cooperation that strength is found, that change is made. Do not believe the lies of Bright Man Theory. Bright Man Theory is specifically there to justify a ruling class of quote-unquote elites who are apparently better and more worthy of power than the rest of us. Do not believe it. It is a lie. I think that's everything. Thank you all for listening. I hope it's, somewhat helpful.